This podcast is sponsored by Release Winery. Every wine tells a story. Each growing season, it's our goal to create an artisan Napa Valley wine of exceptional quality. Join us as the story of this ultra-limited wine continues. Learn more at releasewinery.com.
About a year ago, Ford Coppola Winery purchased the vineyard property and the tasting room here on the vineyard, which was known prior to that for 20 years as Vista Hills Winery. The wine production facility is actually offsite. We share a winemaking space in McMinnville, about 8 miles from here. So Coppola has a contract to make wine there, but they own the 60-ish acres of land up here and the tasting room facility. When Coppola acquired the winery, that was actually something they were looking for. They've been looking actually in Oregon for a while, and they were interested in finding a vineyard that didn't require them to take on an existing brand. That is very much the Coppola family's thing, the creative piece, and so designing brands and identities is really Francis's passion in this whole wine thing is the creative piece, and so the new name is 100% from his interest. Well, first of all, the family de Broglie is a French noble family that's been around for 1,000 years. There's a number of chateaus de Broglie in northern France, all over. So it's a very interesting noble family. It's produced all sorts of historically notable people. We are named for Louis de Broglie, and Louis de Broglie was a physicist. He's a contemporary of Einstein. He was working in physics in Europe in the 1920s. He actually got the Nobel Prize in 1929 for some of his work with particle mechanics. He's turned out to be a really interesting person because the work he was doing, so Einstein was doing most of his work in the mechanics of light, and in addition to the general relativity stuff, but the particle stuff Einstein was doing was about the behavior of light, whether it behaves as a wave or a particle. Louis de Broglie jumped on that idea and extended it to matter. And those turn out to be really important ideas that have been really super relevant in quantum mechanics now. So his hypotheses led to research that ultimately ended up getting him a Nobel Prize in 1929. So he's a really interesting guy. He was a radio operator in World War I in the French Army. He was actually stationed in the Eiffel Tower for a while. Francis Ford Coppola really taken by Louis de Broglie and his story and his contribution. And Francis, turns out, is a super science nerd himself. Like, as a kid, he was, that was what he did for fun. He did experiments. One of the great artifacts we have here in the property is his nuclear science kit that he saved up his money to buy when he was a teen. And it's a famous toy because it came with like tiny flecks of uranium.
Oh no.
So yeah, it's got like a little Geiger counter in it and stuff. Anyhow, we have it on display if you dare go look at it. But that was his thing. So he's really into this stuff. So I mean, the name of this property, Domaine de Broglie, was definitely not cooked up as some kind of marketing gimmick. I mean, this is 100% because Francis is so enthused about the story of Louis de Broglie. This will be my 20th harvest, actually, 2019, yeah. And really, so I started out in 2000 just as a cellar assistant, just helping out, assembling pumps, cleaning, doing the kind of grunt work that cellar assistants do. I really started making wine on my own, and I guess I'd say 2007, when I started to work for Vista Hills. I started helping them launch their own wine brand and started out making a small amount of the wine. So what is that, 12 years, 13 years? Yeah. Really enjoy it. Love the community, love the process, love the seasonality, love the connection to the natural world, which is fantastic, the connection to the farm and the weather and all that kind of stuff. I really like that part of it. So it's just turned out to be a super interesting thing to do for a living. At the time, when I was sort of falling in the wine business, most of the people I knew had gotten into it with no intention of being in it, right? So all these, I knew these refugees from Intel. Like, I used to work with a guy who was the chip designer at Intel, and he was still doing that on the side. And I worked with a guy that had been a lawyer, and so that was very normal in those days in Oregon. Like, all the wine industry is this cast of characters that had all like kind of ended up there somehow. It's very different now. Now, we hire a harvest assistant, and I get resumes from youngsters with a degree from Davis, and they've done 2 harvests in New Zealand, and they're very serious about their wine career. And like, I didn't know anybody like that back in those days. The family is extremely involved in the business. Like, yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Francis son Roman attends all the board meetings. He is in it. Sophia has her own brands. She's in it, although she lives in New York, so we don't see her as much. Francis himself is omnipresent. I mean, he's definitely around. Their involvement. One of the things I like about them is they don't get into the winemaking side of it too much, because that's not his thing. He's a wine drinker. He's been in the wine business for 40 years, so he knows a lot about the wine business. But they're very, very involved in every aspect of the company. But as far as the winemaking piece goes, I report to the winemaking team in Geyserville, where headquarters are. They basically, their philosophy from the beginning has been, we acquired this property because we really like the wines, we like the property, we like what you're doing. So they really haven't changed much. I mean, the only change for me has really been that I now have all these resources to back me up down in California.
Thing, isn't it?
I know, it's actually really something. I've learned a lot, and it's great. They have a lab, they have, incredible depth of experience making all kinds of different kinds of wine and doing all kinds of stuff. So honestly, for me, it's been great. It's been a learning experience, but still I feel very much empowered to make whatever winemaking decisions I think make sense.